So Jen, when it comes to your self-esteem and body image, you were telling me how it's been manifesting itself in your relationship with food, or rather the extreme behaviours with your food. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So I think I've had a weird relationship with self-esteem and image anyway, probably because I started off my career as a dancer, and then that kind of moved into music and then modelling now. So it's always been kind of in front of the camera. So I think going to auditions and from a very early age learning that the way that I looked had such a massive, like it had such a lot to do with whether I booked a job and walk into a room and be in competition with other people. So I think self-image has always been like quite a big deal in my life, and it's kind of just grown into this obsession, right? I guess. And actually, I read something the other day which I really wanted to share with you, which was the beauty myth. Okay. And it's an obsession with physical perfection that traps the modern woman in an endless spiral of hopelessness, self-consciousness, and self-hatred, as she tries to fulfill society's unobtainable, impossible definition of flawless beauty. And I think that probably defines something that I've just been struggling with for the past, 15 years. Yeah. And food had a big part to play there. I remember being on a job, and there was a model, and she was stunning. I remember her saying there's not really a weight loss diet that works, apart from just not eating. So I tried it, and I starved, and it worked, and I shed loads of weight, and booked loads of work, and was really not happy because I wasn't healthy, but I guess felt like I was closer to the idea of perfection. But it was unobtainable, I couldn't keep that up. So then I'd rebound into this binging, where I guess partly was my body kind of wanting to eat, but it was also beginning to be this kind of self-harm thing. And then it would just go from, and then I'd hate myself because then I've binged and suddenly I'm really far from this perfection. So then I'd starve again, and then I'd binge again and starve again. And it's kind of just been quite relentless.
Triggers you have, are there things that trigger, going for auditions, for modelling jobs, for acting jobs, getting so far, getting penciled in, then not getting it.
Yeah, which means that for what I do for work, unfortunately, the triggers are daily. Right. Because there's daily rejection. So I think the minute that there's rejection, it triggers the whole self-value and my self-worth, which, because it's so deep-rooted in my image, then ends up triggering the whole eating disorder thing. So it's like a bit of a cycle.
There is that thing when you are in certain industries that where this is your body, or this is your body, this is your business. That, so where someone can say to you, oh, your website's amazing, if you just change that font it will make it so much better. But when this is your business and someone says to you, well, if you just lose 6 pounds then you'll be so much more marketable, it's very, very hard to differentiate between they're not talking to me as a person, they're talking to me as a business. And if this was a font on a website, I wouldn't take offense. And if they were telling me to put weight on, for a lot of us, if they told us to put weight on, it would be fine. But there's all of that dynamic obviously at play for you. So through that, was it a case of, oh, well, this is just business, this is just what I have to do in order, or was there a moment where you were kind of like, hold on a second?
I think really recently for me, actually. It's
really?
I think before I was kind of like, oh, it's just normal, I'm just yo-yo dieting, the starving binge, it kind of has similar traits to yo-yo dieting, and then I realized, no, it's a lot deeper, because there's so much of my value that's tied into it. It's funny, actually, because now even talking about it, I'm getting even newer revelations. I went to a casting once, and the casting director was like, oh, you'd be perfect for the job, except that your face isn't symmetrical enough. And this side, which sounds funny, right? And he's like, but this side of your face is great, and this side of your face isn't. So I go around with half my hair covering a side of my face that is the imperfect side. And it's these traits that stick with me. And I only realized, oh my gosh, I'm becoming a product of trying to obtain this perfection. I remember when I was younger, there was a time when I felt fine. I was happy with who I was, and I'd look in the mirror and I wouldn't hate myself, and I wouldn't criticize myself, and I wouldn't starve and then binge. I'd have a happy relationship with food. It's not always been this way. So I think it's only recently that I've been what has made me feel this way? What has made me look in the mirror and think ugly and think fat and think all of these horrible words? And I remember having a conversation with you, and I opening up to you about how I actually feel about myself. And I remember you saying they're lies, but where have these lies come from? Like, so it's a journey that I'm still going.
Yeah.
So there's another book that I've started reading called Fat is a Feminist Issue, and it's
great title.
Yeah, but it talks about how the beauty industries and the fashion industries and things, one of the things that they've done is get women so wrapped up in this idea of losing weight and stuff that's become our goal. So for a lot of women, you ask them what their goal is, and it's losing a few pounds or changing their image, and it's a really good way of actually keeping a woman preoccupied instead of actually wanting to achieve real goals that would actually change the world, right? One thing that I've started to really try and do and focus on is realizing that my value and my identity isn't my image, that's a lie, and that there's so much more power in me, and there's so much more that I can do, and there's bigger goals, and there's bigger things to be concentrating my energy on and putting my time and my life into. So I think just taking the focus away from that and trying to look into actually there's more in me.
It's amazing.
So
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing it. Jen, have you had a word of encouragement or a practical tip for somebody at home that has listened to what you've said and it resonates? What would you love to share?
The world is changing, and I think even the fact that we have plus size models and we have women of different shapes and colours and celebrating themselves, I think that it's an exciting time to be able to find your own beauty and to celebrate that. And just take a look in the mirror. I think self-love is actually active. I think you have to actually daily battle those thoughts and speak good things over yourself. Look in the mirror and find something you love, anything. And whether it's your small waist or a compliment that someone gave you, claim it, and I think speak it out and believe it, and be active and disciplined in your self-love.
Next time on the 7 series.
Lie you tell yourself is that you're not bulimic and you're not anorexic, so it's not an issue.